Hey, what's up? So today I want to talk about investing your life savings in your 20s. And I do feel like the last month or so, ever since the election, the markets have been up. I've noticed this trend where more and more people were talking to me about investing. And I think there's a correlation there, right? I also feel like most people that watch this channel are probably in their 20s or 30s or whatever. And I just feel like this might be a good topic because usually when you think about investing your life savings, you're like, oh, you shouldn't do that, right? Because it's too risky to put everything in one bucket, or it's just gambling or whatever. But I do feel like there are times where it actually makes sense, and it makes a lot more sense when you're younger. So I kind of want to put some ideas in your head, get you thinking about it. I'm going to share with you my thoughts. But before that, I just want to say, hey, for real, this is not financial advice. I personally don't really know what I'm doing. At the same time, I don't really feel like anyone knows what they're doing. So there's a lot of big YouTube channels out there where they are like, finance YouTubers where they give all this advice or whatever. And I feel like a lot of people follow them and a lot of people lose their life savings doing it. And like just recently, I saw this article where there's a bank called like Yada Bank. Everyone that invested in that bank basically lost all their money, and people lost their life savings, like tens of hundreds of $1,000s. And and yeah, there's this guy named I remember seeing this video of this guy named Graham Stephan, and he made a video. I remember watching it. He was talking about promoting this Yada Bank and that he was an investor, and then you should put your money there because it's going to help you grow or whatever. And everyone that did that lost their life savings. And I went back to his channel the other day. I don't see any mention of it. He just deleted those videos and he just moved on. And it's like, bro, like people lost their life savings and you're just moving on, making these dumbass YouTube videos that basically, you're just making money off YouTube and you don't really. I don't know. To me, I feel like if you do something like that, you should just delete your channel because you obviously are promoting something that is trying to help yourself and you're making people lose their life savings. Like, I don't know. It really can't get any worse. And I know before he promoted FTX, right? FTX obviously was a scam. I know him and his friends. There's just like the other dude called like Andre something. He did like magic investing. I think he was a magician. They did investing. Is an investing channel. And once again, these are people that started their channel like during COVID. And they're huge. They're huge channels. They do millions of views. And I remember he was promoting BlockFi, which is somewhere you store your crypto, whatever. You can stake your Ethereum and make a bunch of money that way. Everyone that did that lost all their money, right? It's just like crazy where people just do that and people lose all their money and then like they just move on like nothing happened. So to me, I feel like if you're like an investment channel or whatever, you're giving out advice for investments and people lose their life savings because your investment, you can at least address it, or you can at least give the money that you made from the advertising back to the people that lost their money. I don't know. Anyways, this is all just to say, hey, yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing, but then again, I don't feel like anyone knows what they're doing. So take this with a grain of salt. All right, just that's my disclaimer. Okay, so is investing your life savings stupid? I want to say most people say yes, right? I don't want to say it's not stupid because it could be stupid. So I think my answer is maybe, right? This is something that I did when I was younger in my 20s, and I guess I'll share with you. I got lucky, right? I think by the time I was 31, I had like a seven-figure investment account. So yeah, so obviously it worked out for me. It's not gonna work out for everyone, but I'll kind of give you my thought process behind why I did what I did, right? Before you go into, obviously everyone's goals are different, and maybe you have certain goals where you don't want to work as soon as possible and you just want to get there as fast as possible. Then the only way to get there is by being aggressive, right? Obviously, there's ways for you to do that strategically, but if you're just gonna kind of 8% a year grow your net worth, it's gonna take you at least 30 years to get to where you want to be, right? Which is totally fine. But I think the most important thing is you gotta know your goals, because depending on what your goals are, and you gotta know your goals specifically. Like, let's just say, for example, I want $5 million, right? Once I get the $5 million, what's my life gonna be like? Are you realistic are you balling out at $5 million? Maybe, maybe not, right? And then maybe your strategy changes once you hit that number, right? So basically, my point is just have a really strong understanding of what your long-term goals are, and then you can kind of dictate your strategy can dictate based on what those goals are. But yeah, you should definitely have long-term goals, and they should be written down somewhere, and you should be ideally, like, I put mine on the wall and I just like kind of see it every day. So that's helpful, hopefully. So, and then when you think about your money, I think you want to think your money not just as you have a pile of money. You want to think your money in like two buckets, right? You have a bucket where it's like, I'm gonna YOLO this, and you have a bucket where it's like, I'm gonna grow this slowly and steadily, right? And then you got different goals with different buckets. So basically, my point is, you don't want to put all your you don't want to think about your money with one goal. You want to have multiple, like, two different buckets of money with two different goals, right? And then for me, like, I put all my money into one bucket, so I really had one goal, but which was the multiply ASAP goal. But that's one general thing to think about when you think about your money. Have it in two different buckets. And if your goal is to get rich slowly, I think it's super reasonable. It's actually a really good idea. It's actually pretty much foolproof. There's like not really any reason why you won't be a millionaire by the time you retire. Maybe earlier, depending on how much you save. But essentially, the whole strategy of this is super easy. I'll break it down for you. I make other videos about it. I'll share that with a disclaimer, but it's really straightforward. You basically figure out how much you can save, right? You try to maximize your savings. You automate your savings. So basically, when you get paid, that money goes to a different bank account. You automate your investing. So every month, your investment, your brokerage will pull money out of your account and just invest it, right? You automate your retirement. So you max out your 401k, your RIA, or your Roth IRA, whatever works for you. And then you just measure every month, right? So every month you're investing, X, Y, hundreds or thousands of dollars. And every month that's growing supposedly by, 6%, or every year is growing by 6, 7%, 8%. And you're basically dollar cost averaging. And over the course of, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, that's going to grow like exponentially because of compound interest, and also you're continuously adding into it. When you get a raise, you basically just increase your investments as well. So I think this is like a very foolproof way to do it. It's super easy to do. You should definitely do it, regardless, unless you're trying to, make a lot of money faster. So I'll give you some arguments for why you should YOLO in your 20s, or why doing it in your 20s is easier. Is because, for one, it's easier to rebuild, right? If you lose all your money in your 20s, it's like not that big of a deal. You've only been saving for like, let's say 20, 30 months or 40 months or whatever. Like, you could rebuild, right? You don't probably at this time, most likely, just in general, like you don't have a lot of people depending on you. It's just yourself, right? It's you probably don't have any kids yet, hopefully. But if you did, maybe your strategy would be different, right? Like for me right now, if I want to YOLO all my money, which I technically am doing, I gotta ask my wife, right? She gotta be on board. I gotta be more safe for some reasons. There's two people now. There's her money too, right? And then like in your 20s, like you could definitely eat shit if you lose all your money. You can suffer a little bit, right, to build it back up. When you're like 50, like it's really hard to eat shit because like you're already certain standard of living you're on, whatever. You're not gonna want to, you're not gonna be able to suffer that much. So if you do in your 20s, at least you're taking that risk. It's gonna be okay because you have more time to rebuild. Also, the upside is much bigger, right? If you make, just for example, if you make $100,000 in your 20s, that's life-changing money, right? If you make $100,000 in your 50s, you're kind of like, it doesn't really matter, right? So the amount of money you can make, I know it's still percentage-based. It's just basically the upside is bigger. Like, if you made $1 million extra when you're 50, like, yeah, it's going to be huge, but it's not going to change your life. Whereas if you do that in your 20s, it will definitely change your life. The most general advice you get about investing is always about diversifying, right? They always say it to you 3 times in a row. Diversify, 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 right? And I mean, obviously diversifying is not bad, but I think it's built in with downsides, right? You're basically guaranteed to not grow your money very fast, right? Let's say, for example, the grow your money slow thing I was just talking about, you're probably about to buy some index fund or some fund, maybe the S&P 500. It's going to grow like 8%, 13% a year on a good year. And that's pretty much built in. You're not going to grow 100%, 200%, multiple years in a row, right? It's just not going to happen because you're diversifying, right? And that's fine. But when your goal is to grow your money as fast as possible, then diversifying is actually not going to get you there, right? And even if you're going to handpick like, a handful of different stocks, let's say 10 different stocks or whatever, it's going to be very difficult for you to actually know enough about any of these companies where it's useful, right? And yeah, you're diversifying, but at the same time, you're kind of just guessing, right? So that being said, I don't think diversifying is a really good strategy when you are trying to grow as fast as possible. At the same time, when you're 20, like you probably don't have that much money yet statistically, so you're spending this little bit of money really thin already. If one of them takes off, which is great, it's gonna grow not that much, right? It's not gonna be like fuck you money when it grows up there, right? Because you don't have that much money to start with. Plus, you're cutting it down by like 10% by diversifying. So yeah. So typically, when they talk about like high risk, high reward, if you want to get high reward, you have to take high risk. It's generally true because you're putting all your assets into one basket, all your eggs in one basket. But I think you can offset this with knowledge, right? You can actually invest in yourself and just really spend the time to really understand whatever investment you're investing in, right? Just live and breathe that investment. And then that way you're so confident about, so much about it, you feel comfortable with putting all your money into it, right? So you should definitely be doing the math yourself. You should be able to, you should have some sort of like understanding, like some sort of percentage probability that you're calculating This is what it'll be like. I'm 80% sure that it'll be this much in this future, and you have the math to back it up. And you should do the legwork, right? You shouldn't be watching videos on YouTube and go, oh, this guy says invest in this, I'm just gonna invest in it, right? Because when the stock price goes down or whatever, you have to have the confidence to hold or to invest more. So when you're picking an investment, and I'm not gonna tell you what investment to pick. I'm just when you're picking an investment, and it's hard for me to just tell you what investment to be either. But I think just very generally, I would say you want to have something that has very, very high upside and very limited downside, right? And what I mean by that is like there's a chance for it to run really high in the future, so it has a really big addressable market. But at the same time, like the downside is limited, basically being like, okay, if shit hits the fan, I'm not going to lose all my money, right? If the shit hits the fan in one of the possibilities you lose all your money, then yeah, you probably don't want to put your life savings into that investment, right? So I guess for me, I'll give you an example, and I'm not telling you to invest in this company. For me, what I did is I put a lot of money into Tesla, somewhere around here, right? And one thing I want to just illustrate is like as it went up, I bought a lot. I bought more as well. So I definitely bought like near the highs, and then there was like 2 or 3 years where it just went really low, right? It went really low. Like in 2023, it went like almost $100. But if I didn't have a lot of confidence, then I might have sold here, right? Because think about it, it's your life savings is going down. It went down over 50%, 30% in like a year. Like what are you gonna do, right? If you don't know a lot about the company and you're not really invested into it with knowledge, then you could sell really easily. If I sold here, then I'd be fucked, right? So that's why it's really important to understand what's going on, as long as the fundamentals are good. And then there's all these articles that come out about Tesla, like, oh, they just talk all this shit about whatever, and mostly it's wrong, right? Because the person that writing that article doesn't know that much about the company either. So it's important for you to be more knowledgeable than reporters, right? That way you understand your investment. So back to my reason for talking about Tesla is like, for me, there's a huge upside because they have, there could be home runs like Full Self-Driving, the taxi business, Optimus, right, the energy business. These are all like potential huge markets. At the same time, like because they have the manufacturing for cars, even if all this stuff fails, at least it's not going to go to zero. Maybe it won't be this frothy of investment, but at least it's not going to go to zero, right? So that's what I mean by limited downside. Oops, that's what I mean by limited downside, right? Because that's huge upside, limited downside. At least in my opinion, that's what it is. And you can argue, whether or not you believe that's true or whatever. You put a percentage on that, and then maybe it's not the investment for you. I'm not telling you to invest in it. I'm just saying this is an example of an investment where I put a big bet on. That's kind of the thesis I would go. This is not even thesis. Like this is kind of the approach I would go to thinking about these things. So yeah. So basically, in a nutshell, I don't think investing everything you own into one thing when you're young is a bad idea, as long as you are very heavily invested in learning about it and really understanding the business to the point where you're like top 10 percentile in the world of understanding this business. Then yeah, go ahead and invest your life savings because you have a lot of confidence, right? And then that would be the easiest way for you to kind of beat the rat race and multiply whatever money you have now. If you're able to 10x this money you have now, like what would your life be like in the near future if it was like within a few years, right? That's what you should think about when thinking about this. Hope this video is helpful, and yeah, I'll put some other videos down below that might be interesting to you in terms of just saving and investing that are more just general strategies. But yeah, I hope you put some thought into this, and I'm not telling you to do it, but just hope this changes your outlook a little bit, and see you next video. Thanks.